The September 11th attacks could have been prevented if the NSA data gathering had been in effect at that time. That's what FBI Chief Robert Mueller says. We'll have that and more right here, right now on the News Hub. Good afternoon and welcome. I'm Simon Constable. Joining me now from Washington, D.C. is the Wall Street Journal's Devlin Barrett, who's been covering this. Devlin, that's a fairly bold claim.
Yeah, Simon, it is. And what the FBI director said in a hearing before House lawmakers today was that there was a specific al-Qaeda safe house that they were aware of at the time in Yemen. And they knew the phone number for that safe house, but they weren't tracking calls in such a way that allowed them to connect one of the 9/11 hijackers who was living in San Diego at that time, who was calling that safe house. They only figured that out afterwards. And Mueller's message to the lawmakers was, if we'd had this in place then, we would have had another key piece of evidence that could have helped us stop this.
It could have helped us stop this, but then again, it might not have, because when you collect the so-called metadata, there's a lot of stuff to sift through, and the more you collect, the more to sift through, right?
Right, you're gathering vast amounts of information, and most of it you're never going to look at, but what you want to do is you want to be able to, when you get a number that's suspicious, you want to be able to essentially shoot that number through the system and see what it connects to. And that's what they weren't able to do then. Now look, there's a lot of things that got missed before 9/11. No one disputes that. So in some ways it's not quite accurate to say that, well, this alone could have stopped the 9/11 attacks. There are a lot of things, frankly, that could have helped them stop the 9/11 attacks.
And were the Congress people buying this argument? Were there groans? How did they react when he said this?
You know, it's interesting. I think there's a lot of skepticism in there, but I don't know that the latest revelations have actually changed many opinions on the Hill. What you heard today from the lawmakers was people who had expressed skepticism already are even more skeptical now. And maybe the folks who support these programs, who tend to be the chairman and the senior people within Congress, are a little more hesitant to give full-throated support at this point. But essentially, you still have a situation where a lot of lawmakers who were skeptical before are more skeptical now, and a lot of lawmakers who essentially are okay with this program are still okay with this program.
Okay, now he also addressed the legality of this. Let's listen to him.
We recognize that the American public expects the FBI and our intelligence community partners to protect privacy interests, even as we must conduct our national security mission. These programs have been conducted consistent with the Constitution and the laws of the United States.
Okay, so basically he's saying these programs completely legal, nothing to worry about.
Right.
Right.
And it's a very hard thing for someone not in the intelligence community to come to a conclusion on, because we have so few facts about it. The ACLU to this day is still fighting a lawsuit trying to get the government to explain exactly its legal basis for these programs and its legal view of how these programs operate. The challenge here, I think, is that if you explain it in detail, the counterterrorism people will tell you, well, that just makes it easier for terrorists to avoid our detection methods. And what the civil liberties people will tell you is, well, if you can't explain it in detail, how do we know if we can trust you when you say it's constitutional?
Okay, well, it's a bit of a conundrum, isn't it? I'm sure someone will try to sort that one out. We'll have to leave it there. Thank you very much, Devlin Barrett of the Wall Street Journal.
Thanks, Simon.